Hi everyone, welcome into a new installment of the Career Competitor Podcast with me, Steve Mellor. We are the show that seeks to light that competitive fire within you in order to jumpstart or optimize your career. As always, we're brought to you by my pals over at CG Sports Network, and today we get to welcome in Brandon Chubb to the Career Competitor Podcast. Now, Brandon comes from a family of competitors, football competitors mainly. His dad was a former NFL player. He was raised in the same household as his brother, Bradley Chubb, who went on to stardom currently within the NFL. He has a cousin as well in the NFL. But Brandon himself has been working diligently for opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to make sure that he himself is competing at high levels. He was certainly competitive on the field, but he has now gone on to performing at the absolute highest level across many different ventures, some of which include the Heartlent Group, where he is the head of athlete growth. And he also has put together a company called Captain Partners, which is a group of former Wake Forest alums that he played football with, that were also captains as well. So just a really neat venture there. But so many things that he has going on within his life. You're going to find out here today that there hasn't been an inch of that life that he hasn't earned. Every opportunity along the way, Brandon was one of these people that was overlooked. People looked the other way when they saw Brandon coming. They didn't give him the time of day that maybe they gave to other people. So he had to get in their face. He had to earn those opportunities. He had to prove that he was the right guy for the job. And then, even when he was getting those opportunities, if it wasn't enough, he would go and do the extra work in order to take advantage and optimize all of those opportunities that he found himself in. This is what our show here is all about, taking that competitive mindset, finding ways to optimize careers, finding ways to optimize your growth, not just within your career, but within life in general, by taking those competitive instincts and pushing on that ceiling as hard as you can and squeezing every ounce of your potential out of you in order to get the very best result. Brandon is going to give you so many fantastic examples of everything that I'm talking about here. But one theme that I really want you to pay attention to, and it certainly is something that we discuss, is that of humility. Brandon's willingness not just to earn opportunities, but to recognize that for whatever reason, in that moment, he wasn't worthy of the opportunity. So he went and did the legwork that was required to make himself worthy. And that in itself is a trait, is a characteristic that we can all look to maybe instill more of within ourselves. So much fantastic content to be listening out for within this episode. So instead of holding you up any longer, let's jump right into my conversation with former NFL player turned entrepreneur Brandon Chubb, and I hope you all enjoy. Hey guys, before we jump into this interview, please make sure if you're on Instagram, go to career_competitor, give us a follow. There you're going to find information about all my guests and episodes that we have coming up. In addition, I have links in my bio to each and every episode too. That link will take you to Apple Podcasts. If you are someone that likes to listen through Apple Podcasts, while you're there, take the time to leave a review of some sort. You can just click the 5th star, make things easy on yourself, or you can even write something as well. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you. In addition to that, make sure you're subscribed or following the show on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us on. And finally, I would love to connect with you personally. So if you're on LinkedIn, make sure you're connecting with me, Steve Mellor. I would love to hear from you. I would also love to hear if you think you or somebody else could be a great guest to come on the show. So many reasons to be following us, so many reasons to be listening to Career Competitor Podcast. But for now, let's get right to the interview. All right, I'm delighted to welcome in Brandon Chubb to the Career Competitor Podcast today. Brandon, first and foremost, you're out there in sunny and hot Atlanta, Georgia. How are things going, brother?
It's going well, man. Thanks for having me. And yes, it's hot, very hot, humid, and just trying to make it through this summer.
Well, I've been looking forward to this for a little while. We set this up a couple of weeks ago, and for me personally, is as a fan of football, as a fan of, honestly, believe it or not, I've got this weird connection to yourself through. I'm actually an NC State alumni, so I
Ah,
watched your brother tear it up in the ACC for a few years
mhm.
there. But you have your own story to tell, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity for you to tell it to us today, because there's just some phenomenal stuff in here that I know our listeners are going to really appreciate. So let's rewind to begin with. Let's go back to your story on the gridiron. Tell a little bit about where it was you got your start in football, and where it all came to obviously where you finished your career as well.
Yeah, so just from my upbringing, my dad was an NFL player, was a letterman at Georgia, University of Georgia. So I grew up in a football household. And what I mean by that is, you would see remnants of his playing days. You would see pictures, you would see jerseys, you would see the letterman jacket. Him and my mom had this office. Their office was Georgia wallpaper, Georgia rug, Georgia light switch. And so you kind of grew up into that household and to that culture, right? And so that fast forward to high school, went to Hillgrove High School. 2007 was my freshman year. Hillgrove was built in 2006. So we were a brand new school. I was a second graduating class and freshman and senior. And I say all that to say, when it comes to recruiting, right? We're not on recruiting pipelines right now, right? LSU
Right.
doesn't have Hillgrove pinned on their map when they talk about going to the metro Atlanta area as far as recruiting
Right.
recruits. And so at Hillgrove, new school, I played defense end, stand up outside linebacker, and had a great high school career. We had a great team. And, outside linebacker was where the team needed me. And that's where we needed me, and where my skills would help us win. And so I say that to say, when it comes to recruiting, teams weren't looking for a 6-foot outside linebacker or a 6-foot defensive end. And
Mm.
so it was an uphill battle when it came to recruiting. Went through my junior year with no offers, went into my senior year with no offers. And after like the first or second game, they started slowly rolling in. So there were AA schools, the whole SoCon conference. So you have Furman, Chattanooga, Georgia Southern, App State, those guys. And at
Mm.
the time, this is 2010 season. App State was fresh off of that Michigan wins, fresh
Oh
off of
yeah,
those
I remember
national
that. Yeah.
championships.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they were a powerhouse, and I committed to them. I thought it was the best opportunity to play the highest competitive football that
Mm.
I thought I could play, right? And so going into that off season, when you're going into the end of your senior year and you're going on these official visits, took one to App State, committed, and then I would say 2 weeks later, so there's signing days on a Wednesday. The Thursday
Mm.
before, Brian Noor, a defensive coordinator at the time for Wake Forest, comes to my high school, and he pulls me aside in my coach's office and says, "Hey, somebody decommitted. There's a spot open. There's no guarantee, but we would love to have you come to the unofficial official visit this weekend, right before
Mm.
signing day. Meet the head coach, who was Coach Grove at the time. See the campus, and we'll go from there." And so I was ecstatic at the opportunity. Went to Wake Forest that weekend and committed on the spot. And then 3 days later, signed my name to Wake Forest University. And then going into Wake Forest, redshirted my freshman year, my true freshman year, because I was a stand-up outside linebacker, and they
Mm.
played me at middle linebacker in
Okay.
college. So being able to transition that redshirt year really helped me develop my skills as a middle linebacker, helped me develop my instincts. And at that time, we had a great offensive line. Joe Looney from the Cowboys was on that offensive line, and other
Oh
players
wow.
who had NFL shots were on that offensive line. So that's who I was going against every day in practice, and that
Mm.
really helped me develop as a linebacker. And then the rest was history, right? My freshman year, I was a second string linebacker, had 22 special teams tackles, I think the most in Wake Forest history. And then the next 3 years, I was a starter. Ended my
Mm.
season or ended my career first team All ACC linebacker, highest
Mm.
voted linebacker on the list, and unanimous pick. So that's kind of my career.
Yeah.
Then went to the NFL.
Then you went to the NFL, and this is one of, if not the main reason I was excited to speak with you this morning was you have a lot of characteristics and qualities that I can connect with, I can relate with. Nothing came
Mhm.
easy. Everything was
Right.
worked for. You had to put yourself in front of people in some way, shape, or form. And I think that is, that kind of initiative that you took is also reminiscent of why it is today that you've gone down this entrepreneurial route, which is
Yeah.
what entrepreneurism is just putting
Mhm.
yourself in front of people, creating ideas, giving them a reason to really give a shit. That's pretty much what it's
Right.
about, right? And
Yep.
so for you personally to have put yourself in a position to be in a competitive conference like the ACC and pretty much done it on your own, I
Mhm.
think that goes against everything else that people know of in terms of football recruitment, because
Right.
football recruitment is just social media blasted out there. And obviously this was a time before all that, but at the same
Yep.
time, there was still stuff going on back in 2010 when things came easier, let's say, to people that were easier to get a hold of, or people, they were more, better known, let's say.
100%.
So for you personally, like, when were you able to look in the mirror and be like, listen, I know my value. I know what I can do and what I can bring. What am I willing to do to get other people to realize that?
Yeah, I think my first true test was when going into my senior year. Like I said, I had no offers. Me and my dad, he just took me to camps in the local area, right? So I went to UAB. I went to all these camps in this Southeast region. And this is a kid with no offers. I just wanted to get in front of these coaches. And I'm
Mm,
going to these camps and I'm playing middle linebacker, have no middle linebacker skills, nothing. So everything I'm doing, I'm winging it, right? But I'm trying.
right.
I know my dad is hopping in his car using gas, using time on his weekends to take me to these places. And that, I wanted to make sure I rewarded him for at least giving my best effort and reward myself, right? He's putting me and giving me these opportunities. I want to make the most out of them. And then going into my senior year, that season, my dad, this is 2010, so no huddle, no Twitter, no,
Mm,
no Instagram, nothing like that where I could put
right.
myself out and let it go viral through the social network. And my dad said, Brandon, I'm a hire a camera guy. He's gonna come to all your games. He's gonna record after each
Wow.
game. In 48 hours time, we're gonna make a highlight tape of that game, and we're gonna
Mm,
add on the subsequent or the prior games to that, and we're gonna send them out to all these camps you just visited. We're gonna send them
wow.
out, just mail them to all these camps. And so that's what we did. And one caveat was he said, I'm gonna do this, but in order for this to work, you got to be on every tackle. And
Mm.
he was being literal. He might
Yeah,
not have been literal,
yeah,
but I took it as literal, right? I got to be on
right.
every tackle. He said, "You're
Yeah.
not on that tackle. You got to be on the around the ball, almost making a tackle if it came to you, right?" And so
Mm,
that's literally what happened, and that really just flipped the switch in my mind, and that was a test for me. It was all right, give it all you got. We can only
mm,
control what we can control, but if I'm on every tackle, somebody's going to notice it, right? And
yeah.
so that was a true test for me, but it also helped me as a football player develop and have a nose for the ball, be a ball hawk, and really make an impact on each and every play, regardless if you make the tackle, if you fill the gaps where the safety could come in and make the tackle, whatever it may be. And you see that coming to fruition with Wake Forest. Wake Forest offered
Mm.
me because somebody decommitted. They had my tape sitting on their desk somewhere. They put it in. Let's see what this guy's about. Oh well, maybe we can, recruit him to fill this void in this linebacker uh, spot that we just lost. Right.
Mm,
I think the best, and you said it, the best thing that happened to me was being under recruited. The best thing that happened to me was being
mm,
undrafted because it caused me to make a way out of no way, like you said, and knock down doors for myself, create my own opportunities, take advantage of opportunities when they're giving, knowing how small that door is and how small that window is of that opportunity, and to also maximize it, right? And really
yeah.
grab life by the horns and take control of my own destiny.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it, and be around every tackle. It's almost like a mantra. It's like a life mindset.
Yeah.
If
Mm-hmm.
there's something going on, get in there. Get amongst it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just really cool message from someone as influential in your life as your father as well. Like, it's just awesome, and being able to also see now, maybe in hindsight, maybe not at the time. I'm sure you had some bad days when you felt under recruited while you were
100%.
going through it, but in hindsight, being able to look back and say, that was the best thing that happened to me. Just not being given that opportunity and having to work for everything and finding the appreciation and the value in that. And you have your NFL career cut short, and now you're in this position all over again in many ways. It's like, okay, now no one knows what I can bring to the table in other worlds, but I feel as though I have the ability to have influence, to make a name for myself now on a different path. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that you've been able to do that, which is awesome. And so what I'd love for us to do now is just kind of change gears a little bit. Talk us through maybe some of those initial months, maybe even the first year or so after you decided, listen, this ain't happening anymore. Football is now in the past. What's the next chapter going to look like? So just sort of walk us through that,
Yep.
Brandon.
I think the best, like I said, best thing that happened to me was going through these challenges early. So second year in the league, 2017, first practice of OTAs, going into my second year with the Detroit Lions. tore my ACL on a special teams pre-practice. So we weren't in pads, we were in helmets. I was going maybe 25% against Brandon
Right.
Copeland, a guy I look up to, and I was on punt, he was on punt return, and we were just shadowing myself going down and covering my lane. And what that did was it let me know, one, this game can end at any moment. Like I
Oh
said, I
yeah.
had a clean bill of health, never been to the doctor for anything negative besides a physical and a checkup, never had surgery, nothing like this. And now I can't do nothing for 9 months minimum. And so I was on IR that year. It was in Detroit. They let me go home. So I rehabbed at Emory in Atlanta. And what I realized is after like 2 weeks, it got old quick, right? I woke up at 7, went to rehab, came home at 9. And at this time, I was 22, 23. I was still staying with my parents. They would be at work. All my friends were, in college or at work, right? So I was
Yeah.
at home at 9 a.m. realizing like I can't just do this for the rest of my life. Like it's
Yeah.
like more to life than just me sitting at home rehabbing, right? I rehab for
Sure.
2 hours and then I just, like only so much Netflix, PlayStation, and Twitter somebody can consume. And
Right.
so NFLPA had a program called the PAIR program, which was for IR guys who were on injured reserve, and what they would do for every month in the season. So September, October, November, December, they would fly you out for like a week or a weekend at the headquarters in DC, and it was just kind of like a summit. You would have speakers, you would have workshops, you would have networking events, and it would help cultivate your off the field career. And so what that did is, one, get me entrenched in the NFLPA. So I understood the resources that were out there for players, how they helped and supported players in their off the field careers. And then two, being able to understand that I can tap into all these resources that are around me. I went to Wake Forest. Wake Forest has a big alum network in Atlanta, in Buckhead. So I was able to go back home and call Mitch Shaw, part owner of the Hawks in a private equity firm, hospitality at Noble Investments, and have a coffee with them. I was able to call these other people from Wake Forest that I had that common denominator with and talk to them about what they do in their career and just pick their brains and learn
Yeah.
different things about different industries, right? As
Yeah.
athletes, we're so hyper focused about that sport. All right, I got to get through college, focus on my grades, but get through college and let's get to the next level. And so you got blinders on and you don't really understand what you like about yourself, what you don't like, what you're interested in outside of that sport. And
Yeah.
so tearing my ACL second year and being on injured reserve gave me 12 months of really opportunity to do it and to understand and take my time with it and to really grow that business acumen, cultivate that entrepreneurial spirit, and really test things out. I interned in the Hill with Congressman John Lewis in D.C. that December of
Wow.
2017, and then two months later I interned with Fanatics, and then the next year I interned with United Way, all through the NFLPA. And so I understood. I went to politics. I understood I didn't like the politics. I went to kind of business and merchandising and retail and manufacturing. And then I did nonprofit. I have a nonprofit now. So being able to experience all those things and really get a feel for myself and feel for what I like really jump started this, right? And it
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened if 2017 wasn't a year where I was sitting at home for 9 months. And so 2019 was my last season. I had a knee surgery right before camp, got put on an injury settlement. And so I was, more aware, but I was also more prepared that when this is over, I have something that I can start uh, going into. And so I did a Harvard Business School program, crossover into business, got into that Harvard Business School network, got mentors that were Harvard Business School students, and really started fine tuning these passions, private equity, and then that led me to venture capital. And so once I was ready to go, I called some colleagues from Wake Forest that I played football with, and we were off and running, right? And just took
Right.
advantage of every opportunity. And Justin Forsett, quick story. So second year when I tore my ACL, had surgery by the Dallas Cowboys doctor, Dr. Cooper, and Justin
Okay.
Forsett was neighbors with my agent. So my agent stayed in Dallas. So I stayed at my agent's house for 7 days after surgery just to let the swelling go down, the plane or the pain go down before I hopped on a plane for 2 hours. And
Sure.
Justin Forsett just started his company, Hustle Clean. At the time, it was called Shower Pill, but it's a hygienic body wipe. And I was a great use case for it, right? A guy who couldn't
Yeah.
take a shower for 3-4 days because I was
It's true.
immobilized and I
Yeah.
couldn't get my stitches wet, right? And so when Justin was over there, he told me, while you have the shield, make sure you use it appropriately, right? So use that shield while you have it, because you're not gonna play in the NFL for 40 years. People, and you know this, and everybody can tell you this, but as a professional athlete, you have certain access, you have a certain glow to you that doesn't really hit the same when you're retired or when you're done playing, right? Even if you're the last guy on the bench or the first guy on the bench, you open doors and have access and opportunities that you just don't have. And I don't know what the reason is, but you just don't have the moment you retire. So I was
Mm.
taking advantage of that shield as well to make sure if this ended tomorrow, at least I opened up enough doors or opened up some opportunities for myself.
Yeah, I love that term shield because here I am. I work in college athletics for my day job, and these kids have a shield right now. They
Yeah.
don't know it, and I can absolutely scream in their face and tell them like, go get experience in other things right now. Go set yourself up, and they think sometimes getting that degree is the be all and end all of that. And I just
Mm-hmm.
then there's more. There is more that you
Mm-hmm.
can be doing, and you have
Mm-hmm.
the ability to do that right now. I've never heard
Mm-hmm.
it put as a term as a shield
Mm-hmm.
before, which I just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love. But
Mm-hmm.
the humility of your story, Brandon, is something I'm just like totally in awe of because when you talk with, and I've been fortunate to have a few current and former NFL players on this show before. One thing that I see in common with guys like yourself that are able to truly capitalize off the situation that you're handed when you are a pro athlete in terms of setting yourself up for the years after is that humility and willingness to say, this isn't going to last forever. I am not unbreakable. It turns out that I can be broken. It turns out that I do have my flaws and that it can be taken away at any moment. And I think the humility while you're going through something where you could easily get this sort of chip on your shoulder and you say, to hell with everything else. I'm going to focus on my rehab. I'm going to come back stronger than ever before, et cetera, et cetera. All physical, all physical. And you could have easily left all that other stuff
Right.
to the side. And the ability to recognize it and then, like I said, have the willingness to go and intern. Like, again, these are the lowest positions. Interns are
Yeah.
the lowest positions. And
Mm-hmm.
you said, to hell with it. It's opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's opportunity
Yeah.
that I have in front of me right here. I'm going to go get that experience. And like I said, I'm just so in awe of that because I think it takes a specific type of human being to say, listen, this is what is necessary for me to then 5, 10, 15 years from now be in the position that I know I want to
Mm-hmm.
be in. And that I'm going to have to earn every little bit of it. I'm going to have to earn all of it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
is just, it's incredible. I love that story too, just about him being able to, hey, these wipes, man, these things can
Right.
work.
Right.
I love
Right.
that stuff.
And that's kind of why I do what I do with Heartland and wanted to work with those guys is because
Mm,
I understand I've been in that seat. And you mentioned it when you talked about the shield. If I did all this as a Wake Forest athlete, right? I was 3-9 for 3 years, 4-8 for 1 year, right? And I
mm,
love Wake Forest. It's a great program. Coach Clausen has done a great job building that program to what it is now as a perennial bowl team. But when I
sure.
was there, we were 3-9, right? And we were
Right, right.
you're NC State alum, so you know how Wake Forest was at times. And I did all this. I open all these doors for myself. Got into these rooms and I did the opportunities are endless. If I have a Nebraska N on the side of my helmet, the opportunities are endless, right? So
Right.
going back to your shield point, but then also being able to relate to these kids, the humility that it takes, right?
Mm.
I'm a first round pick. I'm a third round pick. It takes a lot of humility to go work for fanatics
Ego's pretty
yeah,
big at that point. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I was in a position where I'm an NFL player, but I'm amongst people. They're like, why aren't you playing right now? Shouldn't you be playing? Why are you doing this? It takes humility. It takes putting your pride aside, understanding the long term gain that this small seed that you're planting right now can help with. And I'm an econ major,
Right.
right? So I understand the long term gain and really think of life in those type of views. But being able to put the pride aside, understand that yeah, this is cool. NFL, no matter how much money I make, we all understand you got to do something else.
Hmm.
COVID taught us that. All these billionaires
Sure.
moving to Miami and Austin because they couldn't sit in their house for any longer, right? So you got to understand that being able to have a passion, and it doesn't even have to be something that um, you're going to make $1 million off of, but something that gets you out the bed every morning, something that keeps you
Sure.
motivated, something that makes you a better husband, wife, dad, mother, whatever it may be. So
Sure.
that goes a long way, and really realizing that at a young age helped me a lot, and it really got me to where I'm at today.
Absolutely. And you've referenced Heartland Group a couple times, and it's something I went and checked out a couple days ago. And I was just going to go check it out. But I tell you what, whoever's responsible for the website, great work, because you had me in for like 15 minutes. I was like navigating through all of it and,
Yeah.
just really in awe of the service that you guys are providing there. And you've touched on a couple of the things that you specifically are working on as well. And I do want to go into that now, honestly, because so much of what we're talking about is so applicable to what the company is. So why don't you just present Heartland to us a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, those guys are great. And then Heartland, it's just a collective of creatives that we try to maximize the opportunities for these athletes and maximize them from a NIL standpoint, from a creative standpoint, from a branding standpoint, from a social strategy standpoint, and really make the most impact, right? I think just from being an athlete and understanding what athletes look for when it comes to branding themselves and how they can position themselves and brand themselves appropriately, but also have the right creative behind it, the right imaging, the right whatever to make their brand more attractive to the athlete themselves, right? So being able to, even as an athlete, I have a partnership with Sony, right? And they have to make me do sponsored ads. Well, let's position those sponsored ads in the most applicable way that I'm sharing it organically as an athlete, whether I'm paid or not, right? They did a partnership with Snickers, and they made like caricatures of these professional athletes. So Bradley, Nick, and like 10 other guys for the Hungriest Player of the Week each season of the 2020 season, right? But these characters look so much like these players. They got so much engagement from these actual players, from resharing, reposting, and really spreading that message outside of the scope of the engagement that these players signed up for. So things like that, right? And then for me, from my perspective of, like I said, with the Open Doors masterclass, we partnered with Open Doors. And so being able to relay that message that I told you earlier about the shield and branding and opportunities and positioning yourself as an athlete and using Heartland to be that, I guess, vehicle to drive these athletes to maximize that value, I think is huge for us and something we're excited about. And that's why I wanted to, join these guys. You mentioned the website. These guys get it, right? And they're on point with things just from a standpoint of thinking like an athlete from a business side too, right? Being able to communicate effectively, understanding the transparency of things and working as a team to get to the common goals. No egos. Talk about humility. There's no egos. And we all understand that we all have that diversified minds, backgrounds, and skill sets, and really just aggregating that to make the best possible product and make the best possible, I guess, engagement with everything we do.
Oh yeah, and it's working. Like I said, you pulled in a 36-year-old coach who has no chance of getting any branding deals anytime soon. Let's put it that way. So with that being said, I just think it's really cool, and also just ties in really nicely with your story too. It's about giving people opportunity. Really understanding that this is an era now of, yes, we have access to more things than we could have ever imagined, but we also have more opportunity than we could have ever imagined. And I think people don't understand how to truly optimize that opportunity. And I say people, I'm talking about, current student athletes, and something that's very close to my heart is making sure that, these kids are getting the right opportunities and they're making the most of it. And I love that you're doing something there that falls in line with that. And this whole show is built on this premise of taking the athlete mindset and being able to apply it in just about any field in life and be successful. And if anyone who's been listening to this for half an hour now doesn't recognize that that's what you are, Brandon, they've not been listening. But in terms of you, the competitor, you think about you, the competitor, as the football player, and you, the competitor, as an entrepreneur today. Where are the correlations? Where does one end and one begin? Or do you feel like it's just the same competitor that's just on a different path at this point?
I think it's the same competitor on a different path. So I started my VC firm, Captain Partners, 2020 of last year, or September 2020. And it's called Captain Partners, one, because of what you just said, right? All my colleagues that are with me at Captain Partners that invest with me and advise on these deals are all former captains of Wake Forest football team that played with me.
Love it.
And so I think naming that in itself shows you that competitiveness, right? We're out here fighting to win deals. We're fighting to get allocations. I'm fighting to meet founders and to sell the value add and the capital plus we are as a VC firm. But at the same time, we're having that disciplined approach that it takes to be an athlete. We have that accountability. We're able to communicate effectively. We're able to work towards a common goal and roll with the punches. As an athlete and you know this, you lose way more than you win. The goal is to win as much as possible, but you're going to lose a lot too, right? And it's
100%.
really how you get off the canvas when you get knocked down, and how many times you're willing to get knocked down before you see a prize or a finished goal. And so being able to take that into a professional career and a business career, I think is huge, especially from a venture capital standpoint, where there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of reward and outsized returns that correlate with that risk. You got to be able to find those entrepreneurs who have that athlete mindset, who are able to roll with the punches, who are able to get told more, no more than times and then get told yes, and to be able to translate that into a profitable business, a revenue generating business, and to build a team around them that helps with that, right? Because you think about an athlete, especially a middle linebacker, I got the headset. I'm calling a play. Nobody's moving on defense until I call the play, right? If I don't call a play, those D linemen are turning back, looking at me with their hands up. Those safeties are yelling at me, yo, what's going on?
Right.
Everybody's having their hands up. Same with the quarterback. So being able to understand that from a business standpoint, relay that into what we're doing as competitors, but how we can do that with a profitable business and be able to create value for others, right? And that's kind of my whole MO, is create value for others. So my nonprofit, we serve underrepresented kids in Atlanta and in the Denver community, to give them more opportunities that we had and we're fortunate to have, but be able to put those resources that we have in our platform, leverage that to create opportunities for them. And so being able to use all those resources I have and to be able to pull from them and connect the dots and leverage them and maximize with the diligent approach and all these characteristics of the athlete and competitor to create value for others, whether that's in nonprofit, public sector, public education, getting opportunities to go to school, educate yourself, whether that's in captain partners and get outsized returns as an investor, and to bring more minority investors into the venture capital access class, because now I'm the bridge instead of somebody in Silicon Valley that you can't get on the phone with unless you were his next door neighbor and went to Stanford with him. And then also at Heartlent, to be able to relay the messages and the challenges, but also the failures I had, and to, put that in front of athletes, be transparent as possible, let them know that I'm surrounded by a team of other guys and creatives that can maximize that value and position you in the best way possible. I think kind of that competitor and that athlete versus business is the same. It's just, it's not contact no more. It's more just, having that same competition, but through words and through your mind and skill set and how you execute.
I love it. I love all of it, man. And it's funny sometimes on this show, people will make it seem before we interview that they're busy and they're trying to fit this into their schedule. But man, you are busy. There's a lot of stuff you're talking about. And so being able to get 30 minutes of your time is huge. But in terms of just a couple of things that I'm listening here, like I love how you're creating value for others, but something I'm hearing and I want people to really appreciate is that for you to create value for others, Brandon, you've had to create value for yourself. For you to create opportunity for others, you've had to create opportunity for yourself. And I think that is something that people need to truly appreciate, is if we're going to compete in our careers and we're going to optimize our potential, it can't just be us taking care of us, and we also need to realize too that if we do take care of ourselves, we got to pass it on. We got to pass it on, and we got to make those opportunities happen for other people as well. So it's just it's a two-way street. There's energy going in, there's energy going out. And I just hope people are hearing what it is you're talking about here and realizing that this is someone who's had to create their value in order to produce value for others. And I'm just so appreciative that you've been able to share this message with us, because it's something that people need to hear and realize. And I hope they appreciate it as much as I do. And just one last thing while I have you, in terms of, because I had to ask, and I'm sure you get asked about it all the time, your family line, your bloodline of competitors there's not many out there that's more competitive in terms of your bloodline. When did, for you, the competitor within your family, have you always known that in your own way that you would be competing in an area that was different maybe to others? Did you all feel like you had your own individual lane when it came to how you were going to compete within your family?
Yeah, I felt like we all had our own different lane, and understanding that we could be running the same race in a different lane, right? And it doesn't have to be we take each other down or compete against each other. Like Brad and Nick are the same age, same grade, right?
Yeah.
So that could have been, they're competing for offers because Georgia might have only one more offer to give out or one more scholarship, right? But they weren't. They weren't competing for anything. They were running the same race in different lanes. I was running the same race, but in a different lane, right? I went to Wake Forest. Brad went to NC State. Nick went to Georgia, and being able to create and carve out a niche for ourselves, right? Being able to be a linebacker who was a stand-up outside linebacker for 4 years and didn't have any offers and nobody really thought twice of him. Being Bradley, being a guy who tore his ACL his junior year and thought his career was over, and being able to come back from that, go to a school that at the time, I mean, he had offer from Mississippi State when Mississippi State was #1 in the country. And so to be able to go to a school like North Carolina State, where he felt the culture and the coaching staff and the team was a great fit for him, and understanding that he could best utilize his assets there. Nick being able to go to University of Georgia, a highly revered school as far as football goes, and especially when you're from Georgia, and be able to carve out a niche for himself and compete with Sony Michelle, Keith Marshall, and a Ty Gurley, who are all going to that same school, sharing the same football and same carries, right? So being able to compete, but understand that, and it goes back to what you said before the question, and I love how you put it. I never thought about it like that. To create value for others, you want to create opportunities for yourself, and you can't do it vice versa, right? You can't just only create value for yourself. And coach, Pat McDowell, he's the strength coach at the Eagles now, but he was assistant strength coach when I was at Wake Forest. Going into my junior year, like I said, we were 3-9, and at the time, a young 20-year-old Brandon was just thinking, let me get as many tackles as possible. I know we're probably not going to win this game, but let me get my stats as high as possible and just go into the next game and really build this resume up for the NFL. And he pulled me aside one practice or one weightlifting session, and he said, Brandon, and it wasn't shown through my character or through my attitude, but you could just tell it. He's a smart guy. He was like, Brandon, the team is only going to go as far as you take them. And what that meant was, yeah, you can be on an island and only worry about you and how many tackles you can get, but the team will go further if you teach that backup linebacker who just came as a freshman to take your spot, if you bring him along to those film sessions with you, if you mentor him, if you bring him along to your extra weightlifting sessions or extra stuff you do after practice. Because when you go down, or if you have to step out or get a breather, he's going to be the guy that comes in, right? So you can ignore it and really try to be pushing them aside and only worry about yourself. But if you want this team to grow, and I was a captain too, so this was a great lesson for me. If you want this team to grow, you want to win these games and build this team along, you got to start bringing people along with you. And so once I learned that principle and got that value, it clicked, right? And then we had a new coach the next year. So then that talks about buying people, getting people to buy in and bringing people into the new culture that the coach is bringing about. And now they're going to bowl games every year. So being able to do that, but also understanding that opportunities aren't given to everybody, right? I was fortunate enough to grow up in a household where my mom was a boss her whole life. My dad was a former NFL player. I had 2 parents in the household. I grew up in Marietta, Georgia. All these things, right? I was able to go to every practice and get picked up from every practice and go to all these extracurricular activities. Everybody else doesn't have the opportunity. So when I'm in the position I'm in, whether that's an NFL player, whether that's a venture capitalist, being able to reach back and bring other people up with me. When you think about venture capital, especially when I broke into this industry, I talked to nobody from my community, nobody from my network, nobody from or who looked like me. I had to go and break down these doors and really get into these rooms, open up my mouth, and then they understood that I had value and I really wanted to be a part of this. But I don't want that same struggle for that next Brandon Chubb. I want to be able to take that next Brandon Chubb who doesn't have nobody to look up to, but wants to break into something big and be able to bring him or her along with me. And same with when it comes to football. I wanted to be able to break into a room and tell Brad, hey, you could be a college football player too. Tell Nick, hey, you seen your brother Zach at Air Force. He's bringing you up too. Y'all don't have to compete. You could be a college football player too. This is how you do it. This is how you got to prepare. This is how you got to train. This is what you got to sacrifice when you come home for the summers. This is what, why you can't go to Panama City for spring break every year, right? Being able to, instead of compete with each other, let each other know that we can all be in this together. We're only going to go as far as the group, the collective goes, right? And so building each other up, reaching back and letting others know that this is attainable, but also creating value for other people while doing that. So that's a great point you mentioned as well.
Yeah, no, that's I love it, and I love what you're saying there, just about competing for the same thing and having our own lanes though in order to do it. And I think that's a really important message too. Is we can't all be rivals, right? We can't all just be rivals constantly. We're never gonna. There's never gonna be any cohesive work being done if we're all rivals. So with that being said, I think that's a great message. And you said it yourself, and I was going to say it for you. There's going to be many, many, many more Brandon Chubbs that come behind you because of the work that you're doing right now. And it may not be on the football field. It may be at a desk working on economics, whatever it may be. But at the same time, it's just a wonderful story, an amazing journey, one that I know is so far from finished. I can't wait to continue to follow it. And honestly, man, I'm just so grateful for your time. The insight was just phenomenal. And thanks again for joining us today, Brandon. And all the best with everything moving forwards, brother.
No, I appreciate it. I enjoyed this conversation. I was looking forward to this pod. Heard your previous episodes. Brad being on the Broncos, I listened to that Steve episode, and being able to talk to you and really just break it down is awesome. And thank you for giving me a platform to tell my story.
And my thanks again to Brandon for joining us on the show today. What about that? I told you at the beginning was going to be a fantastic listen. And Brandon is a competitor to his core, someone that is ever far from satisfied, always pushing for more, always believing that his ceiling can be reached. And he's very comfortable knowing that it's going to require a lot of work in order to get there. I can't be more thankful for his time. More importantly, I can't be more thankful for just the insight he was able to provide. Just some of the specifics there, the support system that he has of competitiveness. It's not just a support system, but it's a system where he's surrounded by competitive instinct, competitive desire to better yourself, to be your best, whether it's from a family standpoint or those that he went to college with, that he's now working with from a business standpoint. He's managed to surround himself with a type of support system that reflects who he is as a person. And that is so important, guys. It's so important to understand the power that can have on you. And like I said at the beginning too, it's just something that I relate to massively because I found myself having to do this a lot growing up, is simply making opportunities happen for yourself, showing people that you are in fact the right person for the job, whatever position it is they're trying to fill. Going up to them, constantly showing them, constantly tapping them on the shoulder and saying, listen, if you're not looking at me, you're going to regret it. And whether it was video of him as a football player, whether it was him being the first man to tackle every single day in every single practice, or whether it was simply being the first person to get that particular qualification that was required to go on and make that next step, and being able to use all these amazing characteristics that he'd built already through his football playing days, knowing that he could rely on them as a person while he was then pursuing what it was he needed to when it came to qualifications, when it came to whatever he was needed to get in order to pursue that next level within his career away from football. It's all fantastic stuff. It's stuff that I couldn't find enough space on the page while Brandon was talking. It was one of those types of episodes where my pen was very busy, but it was all fantastic stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'm sure there was components in there that I haven't brought up that really resonated with you, and that's what I love most about this show, is that we simply have that ability to give you enough diversity of talking points, of takeaways, where me, even the host of the show, might not even be able to pull something away that you, the listener, were able to pull away for yourself. So either way, fantastic listen, awesome episode. Thanks again to Brandon for joining us. And thank you to you for listening. If this is your first time joining the show, I really appreciate the time. But while you're here, make sure you're subscribing to the show. Make sure you're reviewing. Make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Why would you do that? Now you know the content can be this good. Why would you allow yourself to miss out on any further opportunity to get that fire within you lit in order to go and optimize your career? So again, thank you so much for listening. All the best with anything and everything you've got going on within your world. And I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Bye for now.